I think those are accomplishments that we all should be proud of, regardless of whether it encompasses 100% of what we had wanted in the beginning.
And what about the rest that is outstanding? Gay rights, Guantanamo?
I would say this, all things that the president made commitments on and is focused on doing. We have a process underway with the Pentagon to make changes as the president outlined in the campaign, and quite frankly, even before the campaign. I mean, in Don't Ask, Don't Tell, as somebody running for the U.S. Senate in 2004, we have a process to make good on overturning Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
What do you say to progressives who, on reading your comments yesterday, say, well, if that's their attitude, I'm staying home in November?
I don't think they will, because I think what's at stake in November is too important to do that.
On tonight's show, you have met U.S. Army Captain Jonathan Hopkins, U.S. Military Academy Cadet Sergeant Catherine Miller, and U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Victor Fehrenbach, all of whom are having their careers ended right now. The $25 million that you and I, the taxpayers, have spent on Victor Fehrenbach's training as an F-15 fighter pilot, that's down the tubes. That's over. The decade of investment that you and I paid for that built Jonathan J. Hopkins into a Stryker Brigade combat team commander, that's down the tubes. That's over. The $350,000 per cadet training investment that you and I made in building Cadet Sergeant Katie Miller into a top 10 at West Point, Yale caliber scholar who could also bench press you if need be in a pinch, that's down the tubes. That's over. None of those three men and women want it to be over. They want to serve. That's why they signed up. But as we take our time winding down this policy that everyone says will be ending, as we shamble toward justice, maybe, we as a country are meanwhile continuing to put the lives of these individuals through the meat grinder every day. Colonel Fehrenbach has filed his lawsuit today because his legal team thinks his discharge orders are due at any minute. Captain Hopkins was discharged this week. Cadet Sergeant Miller's resignation was processed, or is being processed this week, on the sole basis of the continued enforcement of this policy that everyone says is going to end when they get around to it, maybe early next year. There's a process. What's the rush? Why are we still kicking people out now in the meantime, while we are waiting for the views of the Commander-in-Chief and the Defense Secretary and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to be implemented? If you are changing the policy soon, why not hold off the ruination of lives under the policy now, in the meantime? Why not do that? I'll tell you why. Because that would take some political capital. That would take some guts. And liberals, according to this White House, ought to be drug tested if we're expecting to see that from this White House right now. Stop complaining and be happy for what you have. Lieutenant Dan Choi and Colonel Fehrenbach and Captain Hopkins and Cadet Sergeant Miller, they're expendable because doing what it would take to save them would be hard. So go ahead and watch their careers destroyed, but stop complaining about it. I talked at the top of the show tonight with Gail Collins about how one way to motivate your natural base for an election is fear, to make your base afraid of what the other side has to offer. And that is true. That works. That works on both sides. It works for conservatives about liberals, and it works for liberals about conservatives. But one other way, one frankly less soul-sucking way to motivate your base and to win an election and to keep winning elections and to frankly have history look kindly upon you is to get your base to cheer for you, not just to cheer against someone else, to see you standing up not just to bad guys with worse ideas than you, but to see you standing up for what's right, because you know it's right, because we know you know it's right, even though you also know that standing up for it is hard. That's how you regain the enthusiasm of your base. That is how you win the respect of your base. That's how you win the respect of your country, and admit it. That is actually how you win your own self-respect, too. If Don't Ask, Don't Tell is going to end, the president could stop enforcement of the policy pending that change. Why isn't he? That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Countdown with Keith Olbermann starts now. Good night.